Hi, my name is Katie Kintop, and this is my Math Application 1 video. So today we are going to talk about pie charts and how important they are in math and honestly in everyday life. So one of the things that we use circle graphs or pie charts for when we're displaying data is something that I think is really cool, because a pie chart is like a big circle broken up into smaller pieces that show different sections of one topic. So for example, today we're going to be talking about ice cream. There's hundreds of different ice cream flavors, but we're going to stick to our basic three: chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. So we would use a pie chart or circle graph in order to see our big picture of ice cream and what percentage of all of the 5th grade students that were surveyed liked chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, or had no preference. So the first thing that I'm going to do is take my protractor and I have my compass here, so I'm going to be using these two tools today. First things first is we are going to take this little pin and just kind of stick it right down into the paper. And from here, we just take this and twist, and that middle pin doesn't move, which is why, this is the perfect tool to make quite literally a perfect circle. So there we have that, and this hole that the pin made is really important. That's going to come in handy when we use this tool next. But first things first, let's look at our chart. We have chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and no preference. So it says that, and I should have put the total amount over here because we'll fill in that total. But it says that 24 students prefer chocolate ice cream. So here we have 24. 10 students prefer vanilla. 21 prefer strawberry. And 5 had no preference, and that gives us a grand total of 60 students altogether that were surveyed. That's our entire 5th grade class. So now we've got all of our students listed here. We have our circle graph ready to go. What we're going to do first is look at chocolate. So we're going to separate the part divided by the whole. So the whole thing is this entire circle, which we determined is 60 students. So picture 60 students' answers going into just this circle. So we can fill that first blank in right there because we're going to do something divided by 60, but let's figure out what that something is. The first thing that we're going to look at is our chart up here. Chocolate had 24. So over here for our part, we're going to put 24. So 24 divided by 60. Let's fill in the next one. 10 goes here on this first line because again, we're taking that part, and here's our vanilla part divided by the whole, which is still this big circle, the whole group of students that were surveyed, which is 60 students. So that is going to stay as 60. Now we're going to look at strawberry. Strawberry was 21 divided by 60, and no preference was just 5 students out of 60 total. So what we are going to do is figure out what goes in this blank spot right here, because that's going to help us determine what we do next. So here we have 24 divided by 60, which is 0.4. Next we have 10 divided by 60, which is going to end up being 0.16 repeating, which is kind of an ugly number, but we'll get there. We'll figure that out when we get there. Next we have 21 divided by 60, which is going to be 0.35. And lastly, we have 5 divided by 60, which is 0.083, also repeating. So from here, all of these things kind of translate over into this next section that we're going to get to. But I don't want to jump too far ahead. We are going to move over our decimal point. So all of these 0 point something, we're going to move them all over so that way you can really see what the total percentage is from each of these individual numbers that we got. So we are going to move our decimal point over 2 spots. So if we were to take our decimal point and go 1, 2, 1, 2, and put a 0 right here, it would end up being 40%. So that is the percentage of students that liked chocolate ice cream. We're going to do the same thing over here, although since this one is 0.16 repeating, we're just going to round it up and call it 17%. This one, if we took our decimal point and moved it over 2 spots, this would be 35%. And same thing over here, this is going to be 8%. Okay, so now, now that we're over here and we have kind of an idea of what we are working towards, we're going to take our 40% and just slide that right over here. We're going to take all these numbers from this percentage column and just move them on over because it's just easier and more organized over on this side to follow. So again, nothing changed. It's just a little bit more organized over here. So the next thing that we're going to do is take 360 degrees. And you might be wondering, why are we using 360 degrees? Well, if we were to measure a circle is 360 degrees all the way around. Half of a circle is 180 degrees, but the entire thing is 360 degrees. And you can see that if you were to use one of these and really measure out and get an idea of what that is going to look like. So we have 360 degrees times blank. So here's what we're going to do next. We are going to take these numbers and put them back into that weird decimal point form that we had before. So we have 40% of 360 degrees. That was 0.4. The next one was 0. We're going to call this 0.17 since we rounded up. The next one that we are going to use is 35%, which was 0.35. And you don't have to include the zeros. I just tend to usually do that. And next we have 0.08, since that was our 8%. So what we're going to do now is take our calculator and we're going to multiply 360 times 0.4. And when we do that, we get 0.4, 144. So that means 144 degrees. That means that for chocolate, we are going to measure out 144 degrees, which I will show you how to do in just a minute. Let's finish up these numbers first. Next, we're going to do 360 degrees times 0.17, and that is going to give us 61.2 degrees. The next thing we're going to do is 360 degrees times 0.35, and we get 126 degrees. That degree symbol is very important. You don't want to forget that. And lastly, we're going to do 360 degrees times 0.08. And that is 28.8 degrees. So now we have our degrees. This is what we are going to use to help us fill in our circle graph. So we are going to take our compass and our protractor, and we're going to line up this dot. Remember, I made this dot right here with this pin. It went right down in the middle of my paper, made this nice perfect circle. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our straight edge, and I'm going to use the pencil from this just so that way I can erase in case I make a mistake. But we're going to use the straight edge and just draw a straight line going from the top all the way down to the middle to that point right there. I went ahead and drew a bigger circle so that way we can kind of see and work with it a lot better than that smaller one I had before. So first thing that we are going to do is take our compass here, and I have this nice little point from my circle, and we're actually just going to line up the edge of the straight edge with it and draw a line halfway up. So this is going to be our starting point for our circle graph. So the importance of a circle graph is, like I said before, to see the overall picture. So here is, this whole circle is representing 60 fifth graders, and each of the little segments that you're going to see inside of this circle graph are their ice cream flavor of choice. So we have our first flavor, which is chocolate. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look up here. It says chocolate was 24 students out of 60. That's 40%. But if you remember, we converted all of these into degrees for our circle graph. So we're going to start with 144 degrees. So the very first thing that we want to do is take our compass, and we want to line up this little dot right here with the point that I had made on the paper already. And if you notice, the line that I drew in pencil is hidden under this line that's here on this compass. So what I want to do first is find 144 degrees here. So I'm going to use the outside like tick marks, and here I have 144 degrees. So now all I have to do is just take this, and I'm just going to use this as a straight edge, and I'm going to connect my dot down here to my line, and we can label this chocolate, and that was 40%. So now we have one chunk done. Another really important thing that I notice some people seem to get a little confused on is people tend to want to start back up here when you are going on to the next piece, and that's not what you want to do. We're working clockwise, and you want to pick up where you left off. So we've done this chunk, we've moved down here, we want to start right here. So now I'm going to take my compass, and I'm going to line up my dot and line up my line, and I'm going to look at the next one. The next one's vanilla. It's just 10 students out of 60, which we said was 17%. But remember, we don't want to go 17 on here because I heard that this is a pretty easy thing that people mess up. Even I've messed it up. So we don't want to find 17 on here because that's going to be way too small. Remember, we converted 17% of 360 degrees, so that's 61.2 degrees. So we want to find 61.2, which is about right there. So now I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to use this as my straight edge. And there we have it. This is going to be vanilla, and this was 17%. All right, so next we have strawberry, and strawberry was another one of the popular flavors, so it's going to be a pretty big piece of our circle graph. Again, we're going to pick up right where we left off, right here on this line. And I'm looking at 17%, or I'm sorry, I'm looking at 35%, which was 126 degrees. So I am looking for 126 degrees. I'm going to draw this line, line it up with my dot in the middle, bring it all the way down. And this big piece will represent strawberry, which was 35%. Do you kind of see how this whole thing makes up 100%, but now we have little pieces, and you can kind of see like this whole circle all represents ice cream, but inside there's individualized topics for chocolate and vanilla and strawberry, and some who don't have a preference. So that's one of the really cool things about working with circle graphs. So the last thing, if we measured everything correctly, this should show 28.8 degrees. So if I line up my dot, oops, if I am lining it up, that is just about on 29, just about. So that is 28.8, and that was no preference. And we'll call that 8%. And all together, this makes up 100%, 360 degrees, and all of the preferred ice cream flavors. All right, so now let's get into the technology side of working on pie charts. Is it possible to do pie charts on Excel? Absolutely. In fact, I prefer to do it this way. I think that they look a lot cleaner. Everything is a lot more organized, and you're definitely going to get very precise measurements. Whereas, you know, even when we were using our tools here, they were still very precise, but with how much technology has been advancing, it's definitely going to make sure that, you know, everything is really up to date and going well. So I went ahead and I inputted all of the numbers that we had. So chocolate, if you remember, was 24 out of 60 students, and, you know, and so on. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on our category and drag it. So, so that way it's all highlighted. Then we're going to go up here to the insert tab right up here at the top. I'm going to click on, oops, sorry, wrong insert tab. This insert tab over here. We're going to click on insert. And then right over here where this little pie is, we're going to click on pie chart. What's really cool is that they have different models that we could use. So we could do a 2D, or if we wanted to change it, we could do a 3D. So I could do insert, and I could make it a 3D pie chart, which I like a lot better. So we're just going to move this. Oops, we're just going to move it on over so that way we can see it a little better. And let's make it a little bit bigger too. So like I said, there's a lot of advantages to using Excel for your pie charts, just because, you know, this is a much more precise image. But actually, if you go back and look at our drawing of our pie chart, it looks just like this. This is a perfect example. So when you are here and you've got your pie chart, this looks kind of boring. But what's really cool is as long as your chart is selected, you get this other tab up here for chart design, and you can change the way that it looks. You can have it so that way there's labels on all of them, which I like, but I would also really like to have the labels as well as the percentages. So we can click through, We can see which ones we like. And then we can even add over here with a chart element, we can do data labels and we can put them, let's see, let's try inside end. So it moves the names to the inside. You have a legend. I could put a legend in the, oh, I see, okay. We'll put that right back on the bottom because that one works out really nice there. But what I really want to do, like I said, is get those percentages on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the top left corner where it says quick layout. And I have all these options where I could have percentages. So let's look at this one first. So there we go. Strawberries 35%, no preference was 8, chocolate was 40, and vanilla was 17. That's exactly what we had worked out. And this is just confirming our chart is correct, which is great. And there's other ones that we could do. Let's see, that one just has the names on it. This one is no names on the chart, but up here at the top. But I prefer to have both the name and the percentage here. Another cool thing is that you can change all the colors. You can make it really whatever color. You can make it purples and bright colors or dark colors. So we'll leave it like this. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope you learned a lot with doing circle graphs. Thanks.